So in this segment, what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and decouple a lot of the noise around Brexit, the Brexit impact on the Dover Calais crossing. So we're going to do our best here, and it's not going to be a definitive answer. Definitely not. I'll do my best to kind of give you the best answer I can give you, based on what we can gather in terms of the information at hand. So what we can see is this article's come out. I'm recording this on the 12th of April, and this article's from the 11th, sorry, not the future, the 11th of April, right? So we know that there are 25-hour delays in Dover from delivering, fresh produce. All produce be a 25-hour delay, and that's having an impact on fresh produce. Now, a lot of these articles, some of them are garbage. Right? So they talk about a combination of Easter holiday demand, bad weather, and the suspension of P&O ferries, right? And we're going to talk about why that's a myth in a minute, but I want to do some preamble before we really go into this. So bad weather and the suspension of ferries have led to drivers being forced to sit in long queues, which isn't really true. There is a separate article where the the Independent, talk about Brexit partially being to blame for this, which I think Brexit is the predominant cause of this. They've talked about there's still congestion. This one from 2 days ago, essentially. He does talk about a Brexit scenario. My highlight tool's not working, but they predominantly, the people in Dover, right, they predominantly blame the situation on P&O, which, okay, here we go, highlight's working. Intense traffic congestion, chief executive was mainly down to the sacking of the 800 P&O workers. There is still congestion. P&O ferries is out of service at the moment, which is probably the main cause of all the congestion, coupled with one or two other incidents and other Brexit scenarios. So that's a myth, because the P&O sackings happened in the 17th of March. These problems have been happening since around the 4th of April. So how does an incident that happened over 2 weeks ago impact something that happened a week ago so badly? That's the question I want to ask you people in the audience. So what has been causing queues? This is from the 9th of February, because it's important to go back to actually remember what the state of play is. I did try and find something more recent, but I couldn't find anyone really covering this stuff more recently. So if we actually scroll down here, right, because they talk about that, the new checks at Dover, you've got the GVMS system being mentioned being a cause of the shutdown, and I think it's predominantly down to the GVMS system, because the GVMS system was down and only just came back up recently. So the GVMS system is the government's new IT system, which deals with all the customs, transit and security declarations needed since Brexit. Until January 1st, the goods can only be exported and the paperwork completed after the 60-day grace period. That's all gone, and goods coming into and out of the UK are all checked by the GVMS system. Chris Morris, who is the BBC trade correspondent, has been told it's taking around 15 minutes per vehicle to process the paperwork, and that's under a system where the GVMS system works, and we know trade ramps up as the year goes on. So, it's going to be facing a lot more haulage potentially than it was back in February or January. So that's important to remember, okay? So the situation was bad already, and there were already huge queues in and around Dover. The port of Dover. You've got a 9-kilometre queue growing, anything over there from Michael M. That's in January. This article written at the start of February, right? So we can assume, based on the fact that BBC are hesitant to talk about Brexit, that they would have gotten the facts around this time, right? Around the start of February. You can argue maybe into March it dipped a bit. I struggled to find a lot of information on it in around March. Before the P&O sackings. So we know March 17th, P&O sacked 800 staff, and more recently there have been stories about how P&O ferries have been found basically they can't run the ships because they don't have the adequate staff training or trained staff at hand to deal with a crisis or anything like that. So Dover queues due to shortage of cross-channel ferries. So you've got an incident here that started on the 17th, right? 17th here, and then it's affecting something over 2.5 weeks later. Does that make any sense to anyone? Honestly, can you blame the P&O situation and say it's caused an incident 2 weeks later? I don't think you can, because the P&O sackings were pretty much immediate. So people weren't working in that time. A section of the M20 is being used as lorry park. You can see I'm having an absolute meltdown here because of my highlighter tool is not working. Operation Brock's concrete barrier between Ashford and Maidstone on the M20 was originally introduced to keep traffic moving amid fears of a no-deal Brexit plan. So things are that bad. We're using our no-deal Brexit preparations here. But again, I want you to remember the key reasonings they give for why there are problems with Dover-Calais. You've got a minor Brexit IT problem, which is what they're claiming. You've got bad weather, which they always seem to be claiming. Even from January to April, you're going to claim it's been bad weather throughout. A lack of ferries, which they've also claimed now because of the P&O situation. Okay, so these are the questions I want you to ask. What do you think has caused this, really? What is the GVMS system? So the GVMS system is the Goods Vehicle Movement System. Is a UK IT platform for moving goods in and out of Northern Ireland and Great Britain, right? That's what it's there for. You have to scan a barcode, etc., to say you have clearance to leave with the goods you have, right? We also have the Eurotunnel having a breakdown, which has caused further delays. And the question you've got to ask yourself is how many people go through the Eurotunnel, and is it freight or is it predominantly cars? Because we've seen a large build-up of cars as well, and that's what adds a massive spanner into the works. If it was just lorries, you could just blame the GVMS system, which would make sense, because GVMS wouldn't affect the ordinary civilian vehicle. It would impact heavy goods vehicles or a van or something like that, something that's designed to move goods around on a large amount, which obviously cars don't really do unless you've got a trucker. You're a trucker car. So we can see here problem 4th of April this has happened. You can't blame all of the travel chaos on the Eurotunnel collapse, or not collapse, sorry, problems. So this was on the 4th of April, so I want you to remember, right, 3rd of April the BBC covered problems. 4th of April we can see there was a Eurotunnel problem. It might have happened before the 4th of April, it's hard to really know. But Easter holiday makers and lorry drivers travelling to mainland Europe face further delays on Monday. So further delays meaning more, so there was already problems on Monday on the chaotic cross-channel route after a Eurotunnel Le Shuttle train broke down in the tunnel. The breakdown came as the Eurotunnel said it was experiencing more traffic than it had in 2019. So essentially a lot more volume has caused the problem. Maybe they weren't prepared for the amount of volume, the amount of people going through because of the lockdowns and other things, or maybe there were more people going on because of potential ferry issues. But we have seen stories of ferries not even being full when it comes to goods, when it comes to lorries, so that's another problem. So we've got the government's kind of spokespeople saying the UK's Brexit IT system has crashed and will remain out of service until next week. So it's only just fixed yesterday. Yesterday was the 11th of April. It was just fixed, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But, as the doc points out here, it hasn't just crashed. There's been an ongoing issue, and alternative interim measures were announced on the 4th of April and have now been extended. So that date there, the 4th of April, right? And that was when it was announced that interim measures would be introduced. So evidently, before you do interim measures, there has to be an existing problem before that. And maybe that's the thing that's caused a lot of these blockages, especially with heavy goods vehicles. With civilian cars, it's a bit harder to make that argument. And that's the issue I'm having. Because these are multiple layers here, it's hard to argue just one thing. But you notice that 3rd of April here, you've got travel delays. And now, once we get towards the end of the video, I'll talk about what my theory is as to what's happened. But you can see, Bloomberg have covered it, which is the GVMS system to be fully restored on Monday, which I think it is according to Kieran, the Euro carrier. But a key part of the government's post-Brexit border IT system has suffered outages. And what we've seen before is it takes around 15 minutes per lorry to get through the border, right? Back in February, they might have made it a bit better, I don't know. But now the system that they use, the GVMS system, which is you scan barcodes, predominantly I think, that system is gone, and they have to use alternative measures which are slower. So instead of being maybe 15 or 10 minutes a lorry, it could be 20, 30 minutes a lorry. That's a problem with the thousands of lorries that go through Dover and Calais, through Dover each day. You can imagine how bad that situation would be. Obviously, the situation coming from Calais isn't that bad, and it makes me wonder, maybe they're just waving lorries through in order to avoid a blockage on the other side, which that could be interesting. I'm not sure. These are kind of holes in my theory, if that makes sense. I'll link all of this stuff in the description below because I'm a guy who likes giving his sources out. Hauliers want priority for perishable goods. That's not going to happen. There isn't enough space to do physical inspections anyways in Dover, so that's not going to happen. But it does show you how bad the situation is, that 24-hour wait is cause a massive problem to the goods in the back. there was some other stuff I wanted to talk about, right? Which is the BBC's coverage as well. But we'll go on to Kieran, the Euro courier, which is, he said, I predicted that the queues would disperse once the GVMS system was up and running and communicating with the trains and ferry once again. Looks like I was right. And yeah, I don't know how accurate this Google Maps thing is, but you can see the traffic is on yellow from Dover into Calais. So it's hard to know exactly what the situation was before. I did see people post up pictures with basically a lot of red lines here about traffic, so it looks like it has cleared up. I'm looking at this on the same day I'm recording this video, so it's quite interesting. And Kieran saying his prediction is the GVMS system, and he's actually on the ground, so give him a lot more kind of credit in the bank. Effectively, we can see the doc said that interim measures have been put in place as well. We go to the BBC's kind of coverage of this, which is just bizarro world, which, you got Alistair Campbell. Again, I don't want to see any hate go to these people either, but we have to ask questions, which is the often brilliant BBC coverage of Ukraine stands in stark contrast to Brexit, which is, they don't really mention Brexit as a problem. She's kind of found this and said, hi Alistair, I wrote this piece. The extraordinary queues at Dover are mainly down to capacity being down by a third of ferry routes that are out of action. This is why meat companies want priority. Someone else pointing out, did you edit it to add 3 references to Brexit? Genuine question. I'm curious how reporting works. So essentially, she's gone back and edited the article, which she said we edited it once at 8:30 to clarify the point about the customs IT system. So what this tells you is that for those people who genuinely believe the BBC is hiding Brexit-related problems, it is true, because she's admitted this. She said, we edited it once at 8:30 to clarify the point about the customs IT system and to throw forward to the new checks coming in July my focus on the fresh goods issue, which I just don't get why she did this. And also the fact that it's incredibly irresponsible to go back and edit an article, right? She's gone back, she's edited this article, she hasn't actually mentioned there was an edit here. There's normally, right, for The Guardian, they would say this article was edited on this time on this day to include this information. She hasn't actually done that. So it's very aggravating for journalists at the BBC to do this sort of stuff when she's gone back and she said, oh, no, obviously I went back and, added the points in, but the simple fact is she didn't. And is she actually going to check, are these ferries full? Not asking her to specifically go in the lorries or whatever, but we saw a BBC correspondent do this in the past, where she went in with Kieran and someone else, right? And she saw that the queues between, to go from the UK to France is easy, but to go from the UK to Switzerland with a product is difficult, and then to take that product out of Switzerland and go into, I think it was Germany, is also difficult, but then to take that product back into the UK is very easy. So again, it's just a joke, and these are pictures someone's part, but again, it's hard to verify, are these things true? But I think I'll cover this in a separate piece, which is that the BBC are actually hiding Brexit. That's what's happened here. She's admitted it. She's basically admitted here, we edited it to clarify the point about the new customs IT system. So either she didn't know about these problems, which, this information is out there for free, or it's a lie by omission. And again, I don't want anyone to go harass Katie Prescott, but, questions need to be asked here of what the hell the BBC are doing. Why didn't she mention this in her original piece? We see here that P&O are apparently back online, but the route that they're doing, or at least one of the routes they've been allowed to do is going between, I think that's Scotland. I want to say, yeah, that's Scotland to Northern Ireland. So they're not going back en masse. So if the situation with the traffic clears up, with the GVMS system being, getting back to working essentially, that shows you her point's debunked. It's not about bad weather or about ferries. It's about the GVMS system, the Brexit system. That's what's happening. I know this is a long video. How long have we been going for? About 15 minutes, right? But it's very frustrating for me to have to see this nonsense from an institution I actually respected. And you've got still the BBC saying, this article from 22 hours ago, from the 11th of April, the BBC still saying, in addition to other factors causing congestion, there have been problems with a key Brexit IT system for the UK's busiest port. Sailings by P&O ferries remain suspended. They buried the lead here. Again, it should be mentioned up here, really. Even in her article, I read through it. I thought I had it up, right? If we find it again. If we actually look at the article she put, I think we did have it actually. We had it about back here. But if you look at how she's written this, right? Second paragraph. Bad weather, Easter holidays, and P&O ferry routes being suspended have all led to congestion. Where's the mention of Brexit then? She's added it in later on. She's added it in here in the 5th paragraph, as well as other factors causing congestion, which have led to the traffic management Operation Brock having to be put in place. There have been problems with a key IT system for checks at the UK's busiest port after Brexit. She's buried the lead, because it's probably this. We saw there were problems around the 4th of April, right? It would have been before, because they just started putting in interim measures announced on the 4th of April. So we can assume that probably the week leading to that, there was some sort of issue which led to a further traffic build-up beyond the normal traffic build-up we have in Dover, right? So predominantly we can almost categorically say the main issue is the GVMS system. Now, the holes in the theory are the cars, is the civilian vehicles, right? If we find, what's the picture on? My theory is that the P&O thing has in fact impacted cars, because some of these people would have had tickets with P&O and they haven't been able to transfer them across to other ferry companies. I don't know if the ferry companies have actually, the ones that P&O did, if they've been replaced by other companies. I think other companies are trying, but I'm not sure. So I think it's predominantly the GVMS system for goods vehicles, but for cars, I think it's down to the Eurotunnel being sort of stuck, and that could be blamed on the ferry system. You could say, oh, I'm picking and choosing here. I'm saying, oh, Brexit's only affecting the lorries and everything else is P&O and the Eurotunnel. But when we really look at it here, right, the GVMS system has had problems before, in and around the 4th of April, right? That's what we can gather. You've had traffic queues in and around the 4th of April, right? Before that, I've seen interviews of people saying, oh, I couldn't transfer my tickets from P&O, blah blah blah. These are people in cars, not in heavy goods vehicles or normal goods vehicles. Okay, so I think for me, at least in my opinion, right, I can't categorically say this, but I think in my opinion, I think it's GVMS. I think it's the GVMS system that's caused this problem, and I'm basing that on the fact that it's been down since around the 4th of April. Before that, the huge queues are predominantly lorries, which would rely on the GVMS system, and the fact that the ferry thing and the weather and all that stuff, it doesn't make sense. The only problem is the cars. This is the only time I think this year really we've seen a blockage with the cars, but you can see cars are moving. Right, cars are moving a lot easier than lorries are. So this is what kind of gives me a bit more leeway in what I'm saying. There's no date on this picture, but predominantly it looks like the queues are full of lorries, not cars. And the lorry problem would be GVMS. That's what would have caused it. But anyways, I know it's been a bit more of an angry kind of rambling video. I think I've done my best to kind of lay out what my thoughts are on this, because it's hard to debunk things, especially when people in the Independent and in the BBC aren't doing their jobs properly, because the only thing like myself and the other people on YouTube can really do is give you secondary information, which is based off someone else's primary information. That's all we can do. All we can do is rely on what we are told and what we can read and assess. And so I've done my best to kind of look at the situation, really think, okay, what's going on here? Shouts out to the trade experts on Twitter as well, because without them, I would not have been able to debunk this BBC these articles. I wouldn't have been able to, because I wouldn't have been aware of this. So if it's around the 4th of April that they've had problems with GVMS, that would fit into the timeline of the broader traffic problems. You've got Dover potentially saying that they're going to announce a crisis because of the backup in traffic, which is really bad, but they knew what they voted for, apparently. But anyways, look, these videos a lot longer, a lot more effort, debunking people. So like the video if you can. Comment below what you think, share as well, which is great, if you could share this, but also support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.